German soldier lies where he fell, clutching a grenade, and this exact spot today. The last moment. Winter 1943. Somewhere near Stalingrad. The snow was falling over a shattered landscape of steel, ash, and silence. A German soldier, 19 years old, part of the 6th Army, crawled into a crater. His rifle was gone. The enemy was closing in. He held his last weapon, a stick grenade, the Stielhandgranate, nicknamed the potato masher. He waited. When Soviet troops advanced through the ruins, they found him there, frozen, grenade still clutched in his hand. That image became a haunting symbol of the Battle of Stalingrad, not of glory, but of desperation. The battlefield that ate an army. The Battle of Stalingrad was the turning point of World War II. From August 1942 to February 1943, German and Soviet forces fought a brutal house-to-house war for control of the city that bore Stalin's name. The Germans were confident they had captured half of Europe, but Stalingrad was different. The Soviets refused to yield an inch. Factories turned into fortresses. Cellars became sniper nests. Streets became killing grounds. The 6th Army, under General Friedrich Paulus, advanced block by block until winter closed in, and with it came hunger, disease, and death. By February, over 300,000 German troops were trapped. Supplies stopped. Temperatures fell to -30 degrees Celsius. The Luftwaffe could no longer deliver food or ammunition. Men starved, froze, or fought until their last bullet. By the time Paulus surrendered, only 90,000 Germans were still alive, and most would never return home. The soldiers who never left. After the battle ended, tens of thousands of soldiers remained where they fell. The frozen ground was their grave. When the snow melted, the city was littered with helmets, bones, and twisted metal. Soviet burial teams worked for months, but the scale was unimaginable. Even decades later, farmers plowing fields around Volgograd, modern-day Stalingrad, still unearthed remains, rifles, dog tags, and sometimes grenades still in their hands. Archaeologists and volunteers today still find them, preserved in the soil, a silent reminder of how savage that winter was. The grenade soldier photograph. One of the most famous photographs from the Eastern Front shows exactly that. A German soldier lying on his back, still gripping a grenade, his fingers frozen around the wooden handle. It was taken in 1943, after the battle ended. The photographer, likely Soviet war correspondent Dmitry Baltermans, documented the desolation around Stalingrad. He later said, "There was no victory in that image, only death and the futility of war." That photograph became one of the most circulated war images in post-war Europe, censored in Germany for years, but later shown in memorials as a stark reminder of the price of fanaticism and pride. This exact spot today. Today, that battlefield is quiet. The ruins have become the modern city of Volgograd, home to nearly 1 million people. Where the soldier once fell, grass grows again. Apartment blocks and roads cover what was once no man's land. Nearby, the Mamayev Kurgan Memorial rises above the city, a hill that saw some of the fiercest fighting. At its summit stands the colossal statue, "The Motherland Calls," sword raised to the sky. Every year, thousands visit, Germans and Russians alike, to honor the dead of both sides. Many bring flowers, others bring silence. For some, the war ended 80 years ago. For others, it never truly did.
The truth under the earth. Even now, war relics and remains continue to be discovered in Russia, Ukraine, Poland, and France. Groups like Black Diggers and official recovery teams locate unmarked graves, identify remains through dog tags, and rebury soldiers with full honors. In some cases, personal items, letters, watches, or family photos are found still intact. Each tells a story, not of ideology, but of humanity. They remind us that beneath the uniforms and propaganda, these were young men, fathers, sons, and brothers, caught in a war far beyond their control. Echoes in Western Europe. A similar scene played out across Europe. In Normandy, in the Ardennes, and along the Eastern Front, countless soldiers, German, American, British, and Soviet, died where they stood. Even in 2025, relic hunters still uncover remains in forests and fields, helmets, dog tags, mess tins, even entire bunkers buried under moss. In one case near the Hürtgen forest in Germany, hikers in 2019 found the remains of a Wehrmacht soldier still holding a grenade, almost identical to the Stalingrad photograph. The grenade had fused solid from corrosion, the soldier's body almost fossilized in mud. 80 years later, he was given a proper burial by the Volksbund Deutsche Kriegsgräberversorgung, the German War Graves Commission. From war to memory, time erases the scars of battle, but it never erases memory. The exact spot where that German soldier fell is no longer a crater, it's a park, a street, a backyard. Children play where men once fought, but under the soil, history still breathes. Every spadeful of earth may reveal a story, a name, a uniform button, a weapon still clutching a grenade. Each discovery bridges past and present, a reminder that peace was paid for in blood and youth. The man who never came home. No one knows the name of the soldier in that famous photo. He could have been from Munich, Hamburg, or Berlin. He might have been 18 or 40. All that remains is the silence of where he fell and the grenade in his hand. That spot, now peaceful, once echoed with explosions and screams, and yet today flowers grow there. That's the legacy of war, how places of death can become places of life. Every blade of grass grows from the dust of soldiers. Ancient Greek proverb. Legacy. The soldier clutching his grenade will never rise again, but his story rises every time we remember the cost of war, not for Germany, not for Russia, but for the generations who look at the past and say, never again. German soldier lies where he fell, clutching a grenade. And this exact spot today, the soil that remembers. In war, when the fighting ends, the earth takes over. The wind covers the trenches, rain fills the shell craters, and time slowly buries the fallen. But time doesn't erase everything. In Eastern Europe, the ground still remembers the screams, the thunder of artillery, and the thousands who never came home. For nearly 80 years, the soil of Europe has kept a silent archive, a buried museum of human tragedy. The frozen front lines, from the vast plains of Ukraine to the forests of Poland, from the snow of Stalingrad to the hedgerows of Normandy, the remains of the Second World War still lie beneath the surface. In Russia, the Black Diggers, local historians, and recovery teams continue to find the skeletons of soldiers entombed in mud, still gripping their weapons. Some are Germans of the Wehrmacht and Waffenstase. Others are Red Army soldiers, often with medals or ID discs still intact. Each recovery site tells the same story, the last few seconds of a man's life, frozen in time. When they find a skeleton with a grenade still in his hand, archaeologists know what it means. It wasn't just a weapon, it was a final act of defiance.
The last resort. By the last years of the war, German troops were often cut off, outnumbered, and surrounded. Soviet forces advanced relentlessly. Many young soldiers, 16, 17 years old, had been conscripted with only days of training. When capture seemed inevitable, some clutched their grenades, preferring to end their own lives rather than face captivity. Soviet POW camps were infamous for starvation and disease. Few believed they'd survive them. The stick grenade, the Stielhandgranate, became more than a weapon. It became a symbol of that choice: fight, surrender, or die free. Many soldiers were found with the safety cap removed, the cord pulled halfway but never detonated, suggesting hesitation, fear, or death before the final act. From ruins to memorials. After 1945, Europe was a graveyard. In cities like Berlin, Budapest, and Warsaw, human remains were uncovered in every reconstruction project. Entire divisions simply vanished. No records, no survivors, no graves. In the 1990s, after the fall of the Soviet Union, German war graves commissions were allowed access to former battlefields. They began massive recovery projects in Russia, Ukraine, and Belarus. Over 1.5 million German soldiers have been reburied since then, often found by local farmers, metal detectorists, or excavation crews. Each recovered soldier is documented, his dog tag cataloged, and his remains reinterred with dignity. One volunteer once said, "The war ended 80 years ago, but we are still bringing them home." The spot that never forgot. One of the most haunting discoveries came near Volgograd, Stalingrad, in 2018. A dig team uncovered a collapsed trench system with several German soldiers inside, still positioned as if in combat. One soldier's body lay half upright, helmet crushed, hand around the wooden handle of a grenade, just as in the photograph from 1943. Nearby were fragments of winter uniforms, a Mauser rifle, and a rosary. DNA and ID discs later identified him as a 22-year-old infantryman from Bavaria. He had been missing since January 1943. His family, 3 generations later, were notified through the German War Graves Commission. For them, the war finally ended that day. Then and now. Today, that same field has transformed. Grass waves in the wind. Farmers harvest wheat where tanks once burned. If you stand there today with the old photograph in your hand, the soldier frozen in time, the horizon lines line up perfectly. The hill in the background is still there. The tree line hasn't changed. But the silence is deafening. You can almost feel the echo, the ground remembering what human memory tried to forget. The archaeologists of memory. Groups across Europe like Poisovoid Dvizhenie Rossia, Russia's search movement, and Volksbund Deutsche Kriegsgrabe Vorsorge, German War Graves Commission, work together every year to locate remains. They are not treasure hunters, they are custodians of memory. Every rusted helmet or corroded grenade tells a story. When they uncover soldiers still holding weapons, the excavation stops. They remove soil by hand, photograph everything, and note the orientation of the body. Sometimes a letter is found, a small piece of paper sealed in a metal tin, still legible after decades underground. Those letters often contain the soldier's last words. "Tell my mother I did my duty. We are cold, but we will hold. If I do not return, remember me." The weapons that never fired again. Grenades, rifles, and even unexploded shells are found daily across former battlefields. Entire caches of munitions remain buried in the Ardennes, Normandy, and the Eastern Front. Some grenades, like the one found still clutched in a soldier's hand, are rendered inert by corrosion. Others are still live, even 80 years later. Bomb disposal teams are constantly at work in Germany, France, and Poland. In 2022 alone, over 2,000 tons of World War II ordnance were defused across Europe, nearly 80 decades after the war. The war's legacy isn't just in history books, it's literally beneath the ground we walk on. The human cost. Behind every discovery is a story of loss, not ideology, not propaganda, but people. That photograph of that fallen soldier isn't about Nazis or Soviets, it's about how fragile humanity becomes in total war. That man clutching a grenade was someone's son. Someone waited for his letter. Someone never knew what became of him. And now, generations later, His resting place has become part of the modern world. Roads, buildings, farms, while his story resurfaces, reminding us that peace is not permanent. The exact spot today. Drone footage of that location today shows a green field under sunlight. You can still trace faint scars in the landscape, shallow depressions where trenches once were. Near Volgograd, a marker stands, "To all soldiers who fell here, unmaimed but not forgotten." Locals say after heavy rains, rusted helmets sometimes resurface in the mud. Every time it rains, history breathes again. The legacy. The soldier who fell clutching a grenade has become a symbol not of victory or defeat, but of the absurd cost of war. Every shovel of dirt turned in Eastern Europe reminds us that beneath our feet lie the lessons of history. His story, and those like him, warn us, power fades, ideologies crumble, but the cost of arrogance endures. And perhaps the most haunting part is this. When archaeologists compare photos from 1943 with the satellite images of today, it's the same ground, the same view, the same silence. Only the living have changed.